He knows where I work, and that's been in the back of my mind since all this started. And another part of me? I'm just so deeply sad. Not because I miss him, I don't. I'm sad because I feel stupid. I feel used. Like I ignored every sign and just kept giving, hoping it would eventually turn into something real. Lena keeps telling me I should file a police report about the whole wrist-grabbing thing, just to have it on record in case anything escalates. I'm torn. It feels dramatic, but maybe she's right to be cautious. Have any of you been through something like this? How long did it take for your ex to finally back off? Should I actually be worried about him showing up at work? Am I blowing this out of proportion? After 3 nights at Lena's place, I started to feel a little more like myself again. The bruises on my wrist faded to this gross yellow-green color, but at least they stopped hurting. I hadn't heard a peep from Nico since I blocked him everywhere, and I was finally starting to believe the worst might actually be over. I went back to work on Wednesday, and my coworkers were super chill and supportive about the couple days I took off. Yesterday, Saturday, I woke up early and decided it was time to go back to my apartment. Lena offered to come with me, just to make sure everything was okay, but I told her I needed to do it alone. On the way home, I stopped for coffee and couldn't help checking over my shoulder like I was in some kind of low-budget spy movie. I know that sounds dramatic, but that's genuinely how I felt. When I walked back into my place, everything was exactly how I'd left it. Still, I spent the entire morning deep cleaning, changed all the sheets, scrubbed the bathroom, rearranged a bunch of stuff, just trying to reclaim the space and wipe out every trace of him. I even burned some sage my sister gave me last Christmas. Yeah, I know, it's a little cliché. But honestly, it helped. Around noon, I figured I should check in with my parents. We usually talk on weekends, but I hadn't told them anything about the breakup yet. I thought about calling, but then decided to just go over and tell them in person. I texted my mom to ask if I could come by for dinner. Her response? Yes, we need to talk. And that immediately threw me off. My mom is the kind of person who can't send a text without at least 2 emojis and 5 exclamation points. So a serious "we need to talk" message? That wasn't like her. I tried calling her, no answer. My anxiety shot through the roof. I told myself maybe she was just busy prepping dinner. I got to their house around 4 p.m., and the second I walked in, I knew something was off. My mom was sitting stiffly at the kitchen table, no hug, no smile, nothing. My dad was by the counter, back turned, pouring coffee in complete silence. The tension in the room hit me like a wall. I asked what was going on. My mom just looked at me with this strange mix of concern and confusion. And then she asked, "Are you doing okay, mentally?" I blinked, completely thrown. Then she said it. Nico had shown up at their house the day before. He came unannounced, Friday morning, looking totally polished and put together, apparently playing the role of the concerned boyfriend. He told them he was worried about me, that I'd been acting unstable and paranoid, that I had secretly recorded him, physically attacked him, and thrown him out in some kind of rage. He even showed them a scratch on his face and implied I had done it. You guys, I never touched his face. Not once. That scratch? Either he did it himself or got it some other way. But it definitely didn't come from me. He really tried to spin the whole thing. Painted me as some unstable girlfriend who lost it when he tried to help me. My mom was watching me closely while she explained what he told them, like she was trying to read my face, figure out what was real and what wasn't. I could tell she didn't totally buy his version. She knows me. But still, there was just enough doubt in her voice to sting. Like she was trying to piece together 2 wildly different stories and didn't know what to believe. I sat down at the table, feeling like the floor had been ripped out from under me. I took a breath and tried to explain everything from the beginning, how the dinner with his parents went, the security cameras I'd had since the break-in a year ago, the conversation I heard when I went to the store. I told her about the translation, what his parents said, how he called me his personal housekeeper, and how things escalated when I Sian F. Geralted him, and he grabbed my wrist. She listened, But I could see the disbelief on her face, not in me, but in the sheer absurdity of the situation. It was like she couldn't wrap her head around it. She kept asking if I might have misunderstood the translation somehow, or if it could have been a cultural thing. That's when I pulled out my phone. I still had the video and the screenshots of the translation saved. I handed her the phone and sat in silence as she read. Her face changed as she scrolled, confusion turning to shock, then straight into rage. By the time she finished, she was fuming. Not at me, at him. My dad, who had been standing in the background listening without saying much, finally came over and looked at the translation too. He's usually the calm one, the guy who never raises his voice. But as he read through the transcript, his face started turning red. When he got to the part where Nico's dad called me a free maid and Nico laughed, my dad actually swore out loud. That hardly ever happens. The whole vibe in the kitchen shifted in an instant. My mom stood up and hugged me tight. She apologized for even hesitating to believe me. She said, I should have known better than to trust a manipulative little weasel like that. Her exact words. It made me laugh, even with everything going on. My dad, on the other hand, stayed quiet in a way that was honestly kind of unsettling. Like he was holding back something. He asked what time Nico usually got off work and where he delivered food. I told him without thinking too hard about it. We tried to shift gears and have a normal dinner, but my dad kept checking his watch and barely touched his food. Then, out of nowhere, around 7 p.m., he stood up, grabbed his keys, and told us he had to step out for a bit. My mom asked where he was going. He just said, I'll be back soon, and left. We looked at each other and knew exactly what he was doing. I called my dad immediately, but he didn't answer. I kept picturing him conf Gerald ting Nico, things getting heated, and something going seriously Gerald. My mom was trying to stay calm, saying he wasn't stupid, that he'd keep a level head. But I could tell she was just as worried as I was. We sat there for 2 hours, phones in our hands, refreshing our screens like maniacs. Finally, around 9:30, we heard the sound of his car in the driveway. He walked in like nothing had happened. Calm. Cool. Like he'd just gone out to grab milk or something. We both immediately jumped up and started firing off questions. Where did you go? What happened? He sat down and said he went to find Nico. Went straight to the spot I told him about. Waited until Nico came out after his shift and conf Gerald at him. He said he kept his cool. I mean, I want to believe him, but I'm not entirely convinced. According to my dad, he told Nico he knew everything. That he'd seen the footage, read the translation, and knew what happened the night Nico grabbed me. He told him, clearly and firmly, to stay away from me and our family. Nico apparently tried to play the victim at first, talking about misunderstandings and cultural nuance. But the second my dad started quoting specific things from the transcript, Nico went pale. Then came the line that will probably stay with me forever. My dad told him, you sat at our table, ate our food, and then turned around and called my daughter a maid, like she was only good for cleaning up after you. If you ever speak about her like that again, or lie about her to anyone else, you're going to regret it. He didn't say what that regret would look like, and, honestly, I don't want to know. He said Nico didn't say a word after that. Just stood there looking stunned while my dad walked away. Part of me really wishes I could have seen the look on his face in that moment. When my dad finished telling the story, I felt this weird combo of relief, pride, and deep embarrassment. Like, yes, it felt amazing to be defended so fiercely, but I also hated that my parents had to get involved in this dumpster fire of a relationship when I'm 26 years old. I ended up staying the night there. It was late, I was mentally drained, and honestly, I didn't want to be alone. Over breakfast, my mom brought up something I've been trying not to think about, a restraining order. Given everything, him showing up at my apartment, then at their house, without warning, she thinks it's time to take that step. I'm honestly considering it, but the whole thing feels overwhelming. I'm not even sure if what's happened so far would be enough to get a judge to approve it. Has anyone been through this process? What kind of proof did you need? Did it actually help? Also, quick update on Nico's cousin, the one who messaged me on Instagram before. She texted me again last night. Apparently, Nico called his mom after the run-in with my dad, and she's furious. Not at me. Not at my dad. At Nico. He embarrassed the whole family, apparently. His cousin said he's been bouncing from couch to couch since I kicked him out, and even his friends are getting fed up. He lost his food delivery job too. Kept showing up late. So now he's kind of out of options. I'm heading back to my apartment today. Lena offered to come stay with me again for a few nights if I'm feeling uneasy, which was sweet of her. But honestly, I think I'll be okay. I let my building manager know what had been going on, just in case Nico tried to come back or pull something. Better to be safe than blindsided. Also, random but kind of important, I started therapy. Had my first session the morning before I went to see my parents. My therapist is great, calm, patient, not pushy at all. We've already started digging into how I ended up in a situation like this to begin with. Apparently, I've got some stuff to work on when it comes to noticing red flags early and, actually listening to them. And boundaries? Yeah, those too. Anyway, I'll update again if anything major happens, but I'm really hoping this is the beginning of the end of the whole Nico nightmare. Yesterday took things to a whole new level, and I still don't totally know how to process what happened. After my dad CONF Geralded Nico, everything went quiet for about 10 days. Peaceful even. I moved back into my apartment, started settling into my routine again, and was actually feeling like myself for the first time in months. I did a little retail therapy, bought new throw pillows, a couple plants, just small things to make the space feel mine again. And it helped. A lot. My therapist suggested I start journaling. I rolled my eyes at the idea at first. It sounded so cheesy, but I've been doing it. And weirdly, it's working. Writing things down makes them feel smaller, more manageable. I've had a couple more sessions with her since then, and we've been unpacking why I ignored so many signs for so long. Spoiler alert. Turns out I have some deep-rooted stuff around self-worth. Who would have guessed, right? El Mayo. Work has also been a blessing. I haven't shared much with my coworkers, just told them I went through a rough breakup, and they've all been super kind and respectful. So, yesterday started like any normal Tuesday. I got up, did my skincare routine while listening to a podcast, grabbed my usual coffee from down the street, and headed into the office. It was a busy morning, back-to-back meetings, and I didn't even look at my phone until lunchtime. That's when I noticed I had 3 missed calls from an unknown number and a voicemail waiting. I stepped into the break room to listen. The second I heard the voice, my stomach flipped. It was Nico. And something was off. He didn't sound right. His words were slurred, like maybe he'd been drinking, and he kept bouncing between English and his native language. From what I could piece together, he was saying everything in his life was falling apart. That he needed to talk to me. That I owed him a conversation. I deleted the voicemail immediately and blocked the number. Then I texted Lena to let her know he'd found another way to contact me. She told me to talk to office security, just to be safe. At first, I thought that was probably overkill, but I figured it couldn't hurt. So I stopped by the F. Gerald desk on my way back from lunch. There are 2 security guards in our building. Gerald, this tall, older guy with a military vibe who's been there forever, and Taryn, a younger woman who's newer but super sharp. I caught them between shifts and gave them a quick summary, told them my ex might try to come by and that I absolutely didn't want to see him. They were understanding and took it seriously, which made me feel a little better. I went back to my desk and tried to get back into work mode. Told myself I was being paranoid. I mean, sure, he left a creepy voicemail, but that didn't mean he was going to show up, right? By the afternoon, I had almost convinced myself it was fine. I was in a team meeting in one of the glass-walled conference rooms near reception when I noticed movement at the F. Gerald desk. My heart dropped. I quickly stepped out, texted Gerald, who I knew was in the break room, and asked him to come to the F. Gerald ASAP. I ducked behind one of the big columns near the hallway and tried to think. What do I do if he gets past them? Then I heard his voice. It was already raised. He was trying to push past Taryn, saying he just needed 5 minutes, that I was being childish for ignoring him. That's when Gerald arrived. Thank God for Gerald. He immediately got between Nico and the desk, big and calm and intimidating as hell. Nico took a step back, but kept arguing. I couldn't hear every word, but I saw Gerald point toward the door, his whole posture screaming, not negotiable. Nico hesitated, backed up a few steps. For a moment, I thought maybe that was it. But of course not. Because the universe has perfect timing. That's when Eli, one of my coworkers, walked by and saw me standing near the hallway. He casually asked, "Hey, everything okay?" Nico's head snapped toward the sound of Eli's voice, and then he saw me. Something in his face changed instantly. Like a switch flipped. His expression twisted into something intense, dark. And before I could move, he shoved past Gerald, heading straight for us. Gerald was right behind him, grabbing his arm, trying to pull him back, but Nico was yelling now. Loud enough for everyone in the office to hear. He started shouting that I had ruined his life, that I'd turned everyone against him, and then he saw Eli and lost it. He pointed at him, screaming, "Oh, so this is who you're with now? You replaced me already." Eli just looked confused and totally freaked out. People were coming out of conference rooms, standing up from their desks. I was frozen, completely mortified, and honestly kind of scared. Eli stepped slightly and F Gerald of me, trying to shield me, and that only made things worse. Nico started yelling even louder. He called me a manipulative, said I'd tricked him. Said I'd been secretly recording him just to destroy his life. That I attacked him and left him homeless. At that point, Gerald had had enough. He got behind Nico, grabbed both arms, and started guiding him, firmly, toward the exit. Nico was still yelling the whole way out. And all I could do was stand there, feeling like my entire body was vibrating with adrenaline and embarrassment and fear. And then, just like that, he switched gears. His whole vibe changed, his voice cracked, and suddenly he was crying. I mean, real tears, full-on breakdown mode. He kept saying he loved me, that he needed me, that he didn't have anywhere else to go. He begged me to talk to him, to just give him one more chance. It was like watching someone unravel in real time. While all this was happening, Taryn had already called building security, and within minutes, 2 more guards arrived. Right then, as if he knew his time was up, Nico lunged toward me. He managed to slip out of Gerald's grip for a second. Eli, without even thinking, put his arm out to block him. And Nico? He actually took a swing at Eli. He missed by maybe an inch. The guards tackled him fast, one on each arm, dragging him away while he kept yelling, still flip-flopping between desperate apologies and venom. As they pulled him toward the elevator, he twisted around and shouted at me one last time. "You'll regret this. This isn't over." Then he was gone. My boss showed up right after, barely saying a word. She stood beside me and quietly suggested I take the rest of the day off. She even walked me back to my desk, waited while I grabbed my things, and had Gerald escort me all the way to my car. Just in case. The whole time, I felt like I was underwater. Like everything around me was happening in slow motion, and I was just trying to keep my feet on the ground. Once I got to the parking garage, I called Lena. I was shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. She was at my apartment 30 minutes later with takeout. I told her the whole story while we sat on the couch, and when it got late, she stayed over again. She insisted on taking the bedroom this time so I could sleep in my own bed, but I couldn't sleep anyway. I was too wired, too rattled. This morning, I woke up to a text from my boss telling me to take the day off again. HR wants to meet with me tomorrow to talk about adding some extra security measures at the office. Eli also texted to check on me, which, considering he almost got punched by my unhinged ex, was incredibly kind. That was the moment I realized I should have done this a while ago. I called the police and filed a report. The officer who took my statement was compassionate. She said while what Nico did was disturbing, they couldn't arrest him just for showing up at my workplace and making a scene. But she did help me start the process for filing a restraining order, and that's what I've been working on today. It's happening. I'm not letting this keep going. And as if all that wasn't enough, I got another message from Nico's cousin. Apparently, after the disaster at my office, he went on a bit of a spiral, posting angry, cryptic stuff on his Instagram stories. Lots of talk about betrayal and revenge. I'm blocked, of course, but mutual friends screenshotted everything and sent it to me. His cousin is seriously worried about him now. She apologized again, said she never expected it to go this far. Then she told me something I wasn't expecting. His parents have officially stepped in. They bought him a one-way ticket back to their home country. The flight leaves tomorrow. And they've told him flat out, if he doesn't get on that plane, they're done with him. No more help. No more money. No more safety net. His cousin thinks he'll go. He's out of places to crash, out of money, and quickly running out of people willing to put up with him. So that's where things stand now. I've triple-checked that my doors and windows are locked. Lena's staying another night just to be safe. I'm still jumpy, still processing, but at the same time, I feel more sure than ever that I made the right call cutting him out of my life. If his cousin confirms he actually boards that flight tomorrow, I think I'll finally be able to breathe.